With how amazingly well Sister Wives Season 19 is doing both in numbers and viewer interaction, rumblings about the inevitable coming of Season 20 are already underway among longtime viewers. Although TLC has said nothing about if another season is officially in production, history has proven that often this silence is indicative of behind-the-scenes happening. And besides, the Sister Wives franchise has itself turned out to be one of the most long-lived reality programs in recent times, launching way back in September 2010. What started out as a fairly fresh take on a contemporary-day polygamist family of late has turned into a very intimate, sometimes uncomfortable examination of emotional breakdown, changing allegiances, and the quest for personal fulfillment. At the center of everything is Kody Brown, the erstwhile charismatic head who brought viewers into his unusual family setup. When the series first aired, he was already spiritually wedded to 3 wives: Meri, Janelle, and Christine. But the most serious shakeup occurred when they brought in Robyn, the 4th and youngest wife, who joined the family officially in 2010. At first, her coming was framed as a natural addition to their plural marriage dynamic. But as time went on, Robyn's presence revealed the profound emotional distortions in the family. As the seasons progressed, it became agonizingly apparent that Kody's focus was gravitating almost entirely toward Robyn. His ties to Meri, Janelle, and Christine continued to grow more distant, emotionally and physically, and created a ripple effect that would end up destroying the previously functional polygamous unit. The dissolution didn't occur overnight. Christine attempted to keep it together for years. She put on a tough face for the cameras and for her kids, but in private, her spiritual union with Kody was crumbling due to neglect, favoritism, and poor communication. Her emotional needs were not being addressed, and in November 2021, she finally made a move that fans had been waiting for. She left. The news shocked the fan base, but it also showered Christine with a wave of popular support. For the majority of viewers, her departure wasn't merely an individual triumph. It was a triumph of female empowerment, a woman standing up for her self-worth over convention. What made Christine's departure even more dramatic was how soon she discovered new love. Along came David Woolley, a man Christine has called her soulmate, something she never publicly labeled Kody. Their story took off, and within October 2023, they got married. Season 19 has made a distinct shift in tone by focusing on this new start. Fans have been enjoying Christine's wedding planning and emotional transformation with much excitement. For a show that began with polygamy as its core, the current narrative has shifted to something arguably more relatable: finding love after loss, choosing yourself after decades of compromise, and rebuilding identity in midlife. Meanwhile, the other wives weren't far behind. Janelle, who had always been seen as Kody's most level-headed and practical wife, reached her breaking point in December 2022. After years of feeling emotionally unsupported, she quietly left too. Unlike Christine, Janelle's exit was less showy, but no less monumental. Her marriage to Kody had deteriorated gradually over the years. What was once a working, if emotionally disconnected, relationship disintegrated entirely as Kody's vision of the world became more about Robyn and himself and his own sense of grievances. Janelle, who had prized independence and autonomy, had to once again stand alone, this time forever. And then there was Meri, the first wife, whose marriage to Kody had been in some kind of life support system for decades. Meri's emotional roller coaster, including the infamous catfishing scandal, had already placed her in an isolated corner of the family. She remained legally married to Kody longer than many expected, but their emotional bond had long since vanished. In January 2023, Meri publicly confirmed what most viewers already knew. Her spiritual marriage to Kody was officially over. By that time, Kody was no longer a practicing polygamist. He was monogamously devoted to Robyn by herself. But even that relationship, which at one time appeared to be Kody's emotional sanctuary, is presently in severe crisis. This season on 19, fans have witnessed Robyn and Kody involved in increasingly strained dialogue, their previously harmonious relationship cracking under the pressure of loneliness. Robyn has shown increasingly disappointment, even going so far in one moment of candor as to say that she is losing respect for Kody. It was the admission that stunned viewers. After all, Robyn was the lone individual who had ever fully believed in Kody's dream. Her disillusionment now marks how far the Brown family has dropped from its initial plural ideals. Season 19 has so far delivered all the emotional complexity that fans have come to expect, and more. With Christine's joyful new life, Janelle's quiet resilience, and Meri's hesitant steps into independence, the show has transformed from a story about one man's 4 marriages into a broader tale of womanhood, autonomy, and emotional healing. Meanwhile, Kody, formerly central, near magnetic, is now relegated to supporting character status in the lives of women who are finally taking back their stories. The new season premiered in September 2024 and, as per usual, attracted attention from the very beginning episodes. One of the more memorable moments came during a particularly awkward reunion. Kody, Robyn, and Christine found themselves face-to-face at Mykelti's baby sprinkle after months of not speaking. The tension was palpable, with body language doing much of the talking. Christine, radiant and self-assured, seemed unfazed, while Robyn's discomfort was hard to miss. Kody, caught between his past and present, seemed emotionally unmoored. It was a moment that perfectly embodied the present dynamic, broken, unresolved, and inescapably real. Season 19 is scheduled to end on December 25, 2024. To date, TLC has yet to officially mention Season 20. However, with the dramatic events of the present season and the ongoing viewer interest, it would be surprising if the network were to abandon such rich storytelling material. The show may have started with polygamy, but what's keeping viewers glued now is something deeper: transformation, redemption, and the raw, messy aftermath of spiritual divorce. As Sister Wives Season 19 nears its conclusion, it's already clear that the finale won't offer full closure. In fact, it's poised to end on a cliffhanger that leaves fans speculating about Meri's next chapter, particularly her romantic life, which remains one of the show's most intriguing open questions. After years of feeling emotionally disconnected from Kody, and then officially ending their spiritual marriage in January 2023, Meri finds herself at a personal crossroads. She's shown interest in seeking love anew, but she's also working through trust issues, post-heartbreak heartache, and the complicated dynamic of being emotionally disengaged with the family she helped build. With Season 19 on the cusp of ending, TLC seems to be sowing seeds, gentle teases and show hints, that very much indicate her dating life will be front and center on upcoming episodes. In spite of the open-ended storylines and audience interest, TLC hasn't officially released Sister Wives Season 20 yet. Through December 2024, the network has remained mum, which is not uncommon. Historically, TLC tends to wait until the upcoming season ends before making it official. But longtime fans and insiders understand what's going on behind the scenes. The series is still a huge attraction for the network, particularly in reality TV programming where character drama compels viewers to return week after week. The changing dynamic of the cast, initially a united polygamous family unit and later a constellation of tough, self-sufficient women forging new identities, has expanded the appeal of the show beyond its early niche. A few enthusiasts fear that Season 19 might be the last one. After all, Sister Wives' title was derived from the initial format of Kody Brown's plural marriage, and with Christine, Janelle, and Meri all gone, that format no longer applies. Kody is now monogamously married to Robyn, and most suggest that the show's underlying premise has fallen apart. There are no longer sister wives in the technical sense, only ex-wives, each with her own tale of growth, conflict, and transformation. But this evolution has actually reinvigorated the show. What started out as an examination of plural marriage has evolved into something much more interesting: a documentary-style examination of resilience, reinvention, and the emotional toll of long-term, spiritual relationships. Christine's marriage to David Woolley has brought a romance plotline that fans had no idea they wanted. It's healthy, warm, and optimistic. All that her relationship with Kody was not. Christine exudes confidence and happiness in every scene she is in, and her relationship with David is an example of what a mutual, balanced relationship can be. Her friendship with Janelle, who has grown only stronger since their respective breakups with Kody, is another area of interest that is a big draw to audiences. The two women who were once co-wives now symbolize female solidarity and support. Their shared experience from co-wives to close friends has been one of the warmest aspects of the long-running series. Due to this strong personal relationship and high audience demand, Christine and Janelle are the strongest returning cast members for Season 20. Their history is anything but complete. Janelle, in particular, has barely started to see what life is like beyond Kody. Though she remains heavily connected to him through the children, her emotional distance is evident. She's intent on finding herself, being a mom, and getting through the complex task of regaining her independence after years in a spiritually committing, but otherwise unfulfilling, relationship. Christine and Janelle combined provide a narrative keel that the program can anchor to. even as the original family setup recedes into the distance. And then there's Meri, the wild card. Her part in season 20, if it happens, is likely the most surprising, and that's what makes it so fascinating. Meri has been a richly textured character all along. She was Kody's initial wife and legally wedded to him until he split from her in 2014 to lawfully marry Robyn, explaining adoption logistics. That action, and its emotional repercussions, started a gradual unraveling of Meri. For years, she was stuck on the periphery, emotionally alone and frequently visibly out of place in group scenes. Her narrative was characterized by yearning and stasis, interrupted by the catfishing scandal that served to further thrust her into the background. But now that her spiritual marriage is officially over, Meri has an opportunity to reshape her narrative. There are plenty of viewers who are interested in seeing Meri get on with things. What type of man will she be searching for after such an unusual and emotionally charged marriage? How will she approach dating in a world not always aware of the complexity of plural marriage or spiritual marriages? Will she meet someone who appreciates her for who she is today? Not only Kody's first wife, but a self-standing woman trying to rebuild her sense of self? These are rich fields for storytelling. And if TLC decides to continue following Meri down that road, season 20 could become more extensive than ever. Naturally, there are still question marks over whether Kody and Robyn will be back in season 20, based on how season 19 has painted their union, one of tension, miscommunication, and increasing disillusionment. It's probably the case that they'll still have a place on the show, but likely in a more limited capacity. Their narrative, which was the focus of the program for so long, now functions as a foil to the women who ended up leaving. That juxtaposition is potent. It shows the price of remaining in a miserable dynamic and the strength it takes to exit. In the background, it's very likely filming has already commenced. Sister Wives' production schedule usually runs months ahead of the air schedule. To be ready for fall 2025 delivery, production would have to start no later than early 2025, particularly given that every season traditionally consists of 11 to 15 episodes, with a great deal of post-production. Throw in the complexity of production across different households and geographical locations, and it makes sense that planning ahead is important. TLC has likely been closely monitoring fan response to season 19, and the reaction has been overwhelmingly positive. Ratings have remained strong, social media engagement is high, and major media outlets continue to cover the family's every move. From Meri's cryptic Instagram captions to Christine and David's cheerful TikToks, the cast is more publicly engaged than ever. That level of visibility usually aligns with ongoing production efforts. Networks know that public curiosity equals potential profit, and TLC is no exception. Given all of this, it's reasonable to assume that Sister Wives Season 20 is not just likely. It's already in motion. Whether or not TLC has chosen to announce it officially, the writing is on the wall. Christine's new marriage, Janelle's quiet transformation, and Meri's emotional rebirth are storylines that demand more screen time. Although the initial idea of Sister Wives may be fading out, the essence that runs on the deep emotional core of the show, identity, resilience, and a quest to belong, is indeed stronger than ever. Speculations about Sister Wives Season 20 having a probable release date by the end of 2025 among fans are rising anew. Season 19 premiered in September and will conclude in December 2024, according to the standard routine of breakups between seasons for the show. Traditionally, Sister Wives has paused for about 10 months between seasons, so the next episode would fall sometime in September or October of 2025. With the emotionally rich plot and loose ends of the current season, it seems likely that production for the next episode is already underway. If TLC is to continue momentum, the production team would have to start taping by early 2025. The time investment is considerable. Every season consists of 11 to 15 episodes, and post-production takes weeks of editing, compiling a cohesive narrative, and scheduling release dates. With fan interest reaching an all-time high during season 19, thanks to the significant life changes of every cast member, timing for a new chapter couldn't be more strategic. Season 20 may be the turning point for the franchise, where the program either shifts into a new format or continues documenting the post-breakup realities of the Brown family. One of the major emotional tentpoles of season 19, of course, was the nearly anticipated tell-all special, also known as the One-on-One, which aired on June 15, 2025. In Touch Weekly, as well as other sources, reported that the program was explosive in its tone but raw in its content. On this sit-down, issues were finally brought to the front. specifically those between Kody and Robyn, as the family released long-buried issues like who was the favorite. Years went by, and Kody and Robyn had publicly portrayed there being no preferential treatment or imbalance between the wives. But fans and even the other wives often noticed otherwise. Christine, Janelle, and Meri all conveyed at some time on the show that they had felt emotionally put on the back burner, or considered less of a priority. These emotions weren't founded upon brief instances. Years of disproportionate emotional investment, overtly biased attention from Kody, and the material disparities with which Robyn was treated versus the others. Robyn seemed especially uneasy at the tell-all when presented with older footage that countered their present assertions. One of the most controversial moments was an episode in which Kody seemed to give Robyn's opinions and preferences precedence over those of the other wives, something Robyn has referred to as disturbing in hindsight. Nevertheless, both she and Kody were evasive in their answers, tending to sidestep direct questioning and instead minimize the occurrences or redirect the blame. For both fans and former family members, this sort of selective accountability served only to deepen the emotional wounds that the series itself had exposed. The most contentious subject was likely the early history of Kody and Robyn's romance. Rumors existed since the start that Robyn didn't play by the same rules that the other wives had to play by prior to becoming a part of the family. Old-fashioned values in the Brown family had long been about modesty and a formal courtship process. Regulations said to have been bent, if not totally discarded, when Robyn came along. Fans remember that her wedding was far more lavish and bespoke than those of the other wives. Not only did Kody assist her in choosing a lavish white wedding gown, but their premarital physical intimacy was heavily speculated about. Some of the fans wondered if they were sharing kisses or more before, I do. Christine, especially, wrestled with the public inconsistency in how Robyn was being treated. The grand acts and profound emotional connection Kody appeared to save only for Robyn were hard to observe for the other wives, particularly when their own unions were on the brink of unraveling. The double standards fueled an already brewing emotional fire, one which ultimately caused the breakdown of the original familial structure. The tell-all was not merely about Robyn and Kody. It provided room for Janelle and the rest to get out pent-up emotions over years. Janelle, who has typically presented as even-tempered and level-headed, shared one of the most surprising revelations of the episode. She spoke about what she termed love bombing by Kody in the initial stages of their relationship. This psychological manipulation technique, which is usually linked with narcissistic behavior, is characterized by showering someone with attention and affection at the start, then pulling it away slowly. The aim is usually control. The greater the affection withholding, the greater the other individual tends to fault themselves, working progressively harder to regain the initial degree of intimacy that felt so real initially. Janelle described how Kody's intense initial affection led her to think their spiritual marriage would be a long-term relationship. But with the passage of time and as his focus drifted to Robyn, she felt invisible, unwanted, and emotionally deprived. The cycle demoralized her, manifesting as internal guilt and confusion. Despite acknowledging that she had not changed, she found herself questioning what she had done wrong. This kind of emotional imbalance is so draining, particularly in a relationship where lines between love, obligation, and identity are blurred. For Janelle, leaving wasn't merely an individual choice. It was a mental imperative. Yet, since she has children with Kody and was spiritually wed to him for years, untangling their lives was not straightforward. The emotional significance of these confessions turned this tell-all into one of the most dramatic episodes in the show's extensive history. In contrast to reunions past, which tended to be more scripted and controlled, this segment exposed the broken dynamics that have tormented the Brown family for years. The emotional trauma is not just a storytelling device. It's the lived reality of real individuals going through heartache, identity theft, and the consequences of a crumbling belief system. One of the most obvious sources of emotional distress in the Brown family has ever been the disparity in the way Kody treated Robyn and his other wives. Robyn's wedding ceremony was not only a celebration, it was a show. An elegant white wedding gown, chosen with Kody's full participation, was an indicator that this union was going to be different from the rest. Everyone, and Christine in particular, could see that Robyn was being given a level of care, attention, and emotional investment that Kody hadn't given in years. Christine's anguish was writ large in earlier seasons. Being witness to the guy she had once loved welcome on board a new wife with such eagerness while appearing emotionally unavailable to her was a hard pill to swallow. The argument over Kody and Robyn's relationship does not stop at planning. The wedding. There is also guessing about whether or not the couple sustained the boundaries they asserted before they got married. In contrast to his courtships with Meri, Janelle, or Christine, Kody's relationship with Robyn felt oddly close even prior to their technical spiritual joining. Fans have always questioned if the two stretched the strict code of their fundamentalist faith. These rumors of unseemliness only added fuel to the jealousy of the other wives, who were supposed to comply with rules while Robyn seemed to reap the benefits of exceptions. Emotions came to a boil during the season 19 one-on-one special. Robyn and Kody were clearly uncomfortable being asked pointed questions about the past, particularly about favoritism and the deterioration of their relationships with the other wives. Both dodged or provided vague answers when confronted. Robyn even called some of the footage disturbing, showing just how emotionally raw the whole experience still is, even years after the fact. Maybe one of the most insightful segments involved Janelle, who opened up about her experience with so-called love bombing. In her assessment, Kody's cycle of over-the-top affection followed by withdrawal of emotional support was textbook manipulation. Love bombing is a term that is commonly used to label activity that is a part of narcissistic abuse. It is a process of showering someone with attention, praise, and affection in order to get them emotionally hooked, then withdrawing that affection later on so the other individual becomes confused, desperate, and emotionally needy. Janelle explained how Kody would bombard her with huge romantic gestures and then shut down emotionally when she was fully invested. As the emotional support waned, she would question herself and wonder what she had done wrong. In fact, she hadn't changed. Kody had, and the psychological cost was high. Janelle's genuine confession rang out for so many viewers who had long suspected that emotional manipulation was occurring behind the scenes. What made Janelle's confession even stronger was the added complexity of her family dynamics. Giving up on someone who's playing games with you is tough, but giving up on the father of your children, someone with whom you've spent decades of life together in a spiritual marriage, takes that fight to a whole other level. The emotional, practical, and spiritual strings that bound Janelle to Kody were close-knit, and unwinding them overnight wasn't in her scope. The one-on-one also heard from other cast members, most of whom had their own emotional wounds from struggling to make plural marriage function. Christine, now remarried in every sense of the word and apparently at peace, looked back on loneliness and rejection she had experienced. Meri, still struggling with her departure and figuring out a future that wasn't certain, was sad, but also hopeful, maybe linked to her own unfolding path to self-discovery and perhaps new love. Across the board, the tell-all revealed the deep psychological scars left by years of imbalance, betrayal, and disappointed expectations. The breakdown of the family did not come suddenly. It was the culmination of years of tiny fractures, unexpressed feelings, silent resentment, unmet needs, which eventually snapped into the open. And as viewers watch these tales unravel in close-up, it becomes apparent that Sister Wives has mushroomed well beyond a polygamy show. It's now a gritty, unglamorized exploration of emotional survival, renewal, and the strength it takes to leave behind something that no longer nourishes you, even when you've invested everything.